think about the power of our words, the power of our thoughts, and really the impact of the energy that we put out towards others. There is power in it, right? Words are not just words. Words carry energy, and that energy makes an impact, whether it be negative or whether it be positive. Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about the power of our words and the power of our energy. So there's a very popular video on YouTube, and it's a Dr. Masaru Emoto's rice experiment. And maybe you've seen this. It shows this Japanese doctor, and he has 3 containers of rice, and he covers them with water. And for 30 days, he tells one container of rice, he loves it, thank you, he loves it. The second container of rice, he tells it that it's an idiot, and he directs hate. And then the third container of rice, he completely ignores. And so in his video, the first container that got the thanks and the gratitude and the love, like fermented and had this like pleasant aroma to it. The second one, which was told that it's an idiot and had hate directed at it, turned kind of black. And then the one that was ignored also started to decay and rot and turn black. So I saw this video and I was wondering to myself, like, how accurate is this? What would happen if I actually tried this myself? So I did. So I made a whole pot of rice. I measured out, the exact amount of rice in each container, and I covered them with water, and my rice was cooked. I covered them with water, and then I put lids on them because I do have a cat at home, and if I didn't, it would have been a mess. And I put them each on a paper, so for the whole family to see, like, direct love at this one, direct hate at this one, and please ignore this other one. And so for the past 30 days, we've had these lined up on the dining table, and we've all been, taking a moment every day to do this. And so I wanted to share the results with you. My results were a little bit different than Dr. Emoto, but similar. So first we'll see love, and you can see that there is definitely like a yellow happening here. There's also, some white. On the top, there is kind of like a clump of mold, or I don't know if it's some kind of fungus, because it's white and there's a little bit of black. And so this jar was told, thank you and we love you every day for 30 days. Very interesting. So this one, you can already tell it got a little mixed up when I brought it here, but you can see it's a lot darker. There's no yellow. It's like a darker, and then on the top, there's a big clump of black. And it's just maybe a little more liquidy, like it broke down more, but it's definitely darker and looks less pleasant. This is the one it was really weird to tell this little jar of rice that it was an idiot every day. Like I felt the energy in those words, and it was like a little bit uncomfortable to do. Now look at ignore. Ignore has this like crazy red mold going. Oh, it almost looks like drops of blood in here. There's like a dark mold on this side. So it's a very different look, and it's not runny. That's another thing that's different about this guy, because again, I measured everything exactly. So what went into these 3 jars was exactly the same measurement of rice, exactly the same measurement of water. So that is kind of interesting. Not only the color of this ignore one, but the fact that like love is a lot more liquidy, and then also hate is a lot more liquidy. Like these two that got positive and negative attention, whereas this one that was ignored, no one said anything to it for 30 days, and just the decay is different. So what can we take away from this? First of all, it is a fascinating experiment. I would say I would probably do it again and do it in a way where I could leave the lids off and then maybe not cook the rice. Because when I went back and rewatched Dr. Emoto's video, I'm wondering if the rice wasn't cooked. So I don't know if that'll make a difference. But just overall, it's so fascinating and interesting to see that these 3 jars of rice that were exactly the same, put out in the same place, the only differentiating factor was one jar was told it was an idiot and then we hate him, and one jar was said thank you to and given love, and then the other one was just ignored. That's the only difference. And then to see that the decay and the colors are all different. And so it really does kind of bring into light and bring into question, how powerful are our words? And then the energy that goes behind these words, and like the energy and the vibrations that go behind when we say loving things, right? When we say thank you, I love you. I would tell this little jar that it was so cute. And I was just so grateful that it was in my house, versus when we're kind of spewing negative things and awful things and, insults and criticism and just mean stuff, right? It was interesting. A couple times, one of my kids would like come through the room when I'm like telling this jar of rice that it's an idiot and like kind of cussing at it. And they're like, "What, Mom? Like, this is just so disturbing to hear you do this." um, and then to think that like being ignored, having no energy and no attention directed at you caused a difference, right? Like the decay, it's almost more, it looks worse to me, this like really red mold. That's very fascinating, actually. And to think that it's just based on our words and our energy that made such a difference. And so, the overall thoughts that I have now, it's like we kind of know that our words and the energy, the intention behind our words carry power. But to see it kind of play out like this brings to light really just how important it is to be intentional and careful with our words and our energy. And so, in our relationships, this is probably one of the more obvious places where when we say negative things and we criticize, we direct negative energy towards another person, towards this relationship that we have, it's very clear that it's going to break it down, right? It's going to have a negative impact versus, when we're sending positive vibes and saying positive things and gratitude. And then when we ignore people, right? We ignore people and we allow our relationships to just sort of die out. We can see how that allows this this decay and this breakdown. So, what we say to others and what we say to a jar of rice might be more obvious than the implication on what we say to ourselves. And so if we think about our self-talk, right? Your self-talk is just that voice that's in your head that's narrating your life, right? That's talking to you all the time. It is you, but it's talking to you all the time. How many of the things that you say to yourself in your own head are filled with negative energy, right? Are carrying with it this negative messaging that's going to have an impact, right? And so if this is something that you find yourself doing, if you notice that you have a pattern or habit of saying kind of nasty things to yourself in your head, or criticizing yourself. Let's say if you do something wrong or you forget to do something, is that voice in your head cutting you down? And if this is an experience that you have, then I think it would be pretty cool for you to do a little rice experiment on your own to really notice, like, gosh, that negative voice in my head is causing damage. Like, we can physically see it with the rice. And so we know that if we're directing that negative energy inward towards ourself, that there's going to be a negative impact. And so this is making me think of The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, where he goes into great detail about that voice that's narrating the world to you, and how we can really help to calm that voice down. But also, I love this idea of, if you're going to have a voice that's narrating things to you, why not turn it into more of a cheerleader and train that narration in your head to be positive and to build you up, be filled with gratitude, and to notice things about you that you do right. And this goes back to like taking time every day to do affirmations, which I love affirmations because they're the opposite of this critical negative self-talk, right? And when we can do it regularly every day, we can really start to rewire our brain, which means we're rewriting the script for this inner critic. We can give him a new script that is filled with these positive affirmations that can help us to really have that higher version of ourself emerge. So my big takeaway with the rice experiment really is in relation to our self-development. And so for me, that's really an implication on how do you talk to yourself, right? What is that script that's happening in your head, and see how it impacts you. Now, Dr. Emoto had a different take, and this is equally as valid. And he was talking about, how do we treat our children, and how do we treat children in general, right? And this is something, if you're a parent, or if you're maybe an uncle or an aunt of children, you're involved in raising kids, this is really something important for us to think about as we are tasked with, instructing them and guiding them and disciplining them. There's options in how we do it, right? And it has an impact. So when we're speaking with love and respect and with gratitude, right? And we're treating children this way with this intent in mind, like, even if I have to administer some discipline, even if I have to do some correction here, I can do it with love, and I can do it with this positive energy instead of, this negative way, right? And so this is something, hopefully this didn't happen to you, but most of us have some experience, being children and having an adult or a caregiver really tell us that we're big dummies, or maybe they said it worse than that. But having negativity and almost, hatred coming at us as a way of disciplining or instructing, and how damaging that can be, right? And maybe this is one of those moments where you kind of think back and you're like, well, that's how I was spoken to. That was how I was disciplined. And so that's just how I've done it. Maybe really thinking twice about the way that we speak to kids. And then the ignore. And I think this is probably the biggest one, right? When we aren't giving children the attention and the nurture that they need, how damaging that is, right? And I think this is probably the one that's maybe the most surprising for a lot of us, because it's easy to say, like, yes, I shouldn't yell and be mean and all of that, but not paying any attention, right? Not acknowledging someone, whether it be a child or someone else in your life. And this is, as adults and in this culture of like ghosting people, right? And if someone has reached out to you, not responding, right? We're doing this, we're letting the relationship rot, and we're giving them this this absence of attention. Yeah, so it's just something to think about and also fun to do to get the whole family involved with little jars of rice and talking to jars of rice, but really giving us the opportunity to think about the power of our words, the power of our thoughts, and really the impact of the energy that we put out towards others, and not discounting that there is power in it. Right? Words are not just words. Words carry energy, and that energy makes an impact, whether it be negative or whether it be positive. So it's something for you to think about and maybe try. Drop me a comment if you do this experiment at home and let me know how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this is giving you something to think about. If you like the content, please like and subscribe or share with a friend. And I will be back next week with another message. Take care.